All right, everybody, we're about to get started here. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for FMT's presentation of mobile app development made easy with Microsoft PowerApps and Flow. My name is Lucas Darling, and I'm an account executive here at FMT Consultants, and I'm joined by one of our very own senior consultants here at FMT, Henry Lin. For those of you who aren't familiar with FMT, I'd like to just take a few moments to give a brief introduction of our company. Here at FMT, we opened up for business in 1995 and have successfully completed over 1,500 projects, and in that time I've accumulated over 285 clients spanning the U.S. and into Canada. During this time, we've been able to establish ourselves as Southern California's leading provider of integrated solutions, and along with 21 years of experience, we have grown to well over 80 team members located both in Carlsbad as well as Los Angeles. At FMT, we pride ourselves on our 5 core values, which you can see on this screen, and we like to hold ourselves to every day. Those values are integrity, service excellence, collaboration, innovation, and passion. With the combination of talent, experience, and methodology, we are fully dedicated to the success of your company. We offer a wide array of services pertaining to ERP, CRM, SharePoint, BI, and Office 365. In addition to having extremely experienced consultants, we have a dedicated help desk that offers ongoing training and support once projects are completed. Here are just a few of the clients that we get the privilege to work with on a daily basis. Now I'm going to hand it over to Henry, but before I do, if at any point during the presentation you have a question, feel free to type them into the comment box. We will be monitoring it during the entire presentation, and we'll answer them at the end. Thank you.
All right, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm Henry. So here's just a little sneak peek at the agenda of what we're going over today. So first, just a quick introduction to a couple of things, and then basically we're going to be using PowerApps and Flow to build together a Power App, and we're going to walk you through what we've done as far as the scenario goes, and then we'll actually dive in and open up the app and see how that's working. After that, we'll go into the designer for that app and just, kind of see how it's built and how maybe you would be able to, take some key points away and start using the technology yourself. And then finally, with anything, there's both sides to one coin. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience with, both PowerApps and Flow. All right, so a little bit about me. So I've been with FMT for almost 4 years now, and I've been a CRM consultant since the beginning. And at that time, we were using, Dynamics CRM 2011. And so now, we're pretty much in Microsoft Dynamics 365. So it's been exciting to kind of see that progress from where we were before into where we are today. Technology is moving so quick, and definitely excited about the cloud and all the different things that that's bringing. So just to see Microsoft kind of putting that cloud first, mobile first approach, we're always aligned with that, and that definitely rings true with Dynamics 365. So with that, I'm going to segue into Power Apps and Flow. So these are actually also part of the cloud products from Office 365. So I'm just going to open up some links here just to quickly show you what's going on. Let's see. All right. So if you go to these links, you'll see here's kind of the home page for Power Apps, and basically what it says is apps that mean business, turn your business expertise into solutions with ease, give people what they need to drive results. So what you see here are like basically you build apps in this drag and drop designer, and you can connect to different systems. So if you want to look through this, this is just some of the collateral on Power Apps. Flow is similar and kind of related. You can connect to different services, and basically all of these are offered under the Office 365 umbrella. So this is like a drag and drop workflow designer that you can connect with different services, and based off certain actions, you can do different things, right? So just going back to the PowerPoint. All right. So for me, like I talked about, Power Apps, in my words, in my view, is just like a drag and drop mobile app builder for phones, tablets, and browsers. So you basically build the app through Power Apps, and you can install Power Apps on your tablet and on your phone, your iPhone, your Android device, your Windows phone, or whatever, and you essentially run apps through Power Apps. And yes, there's a web component as well, and we'll look at that a little bit later. Flow is just only offered through the web client today, and so we'll look at that a little bit later. And so just kind of rehashing what these two things have in common. So they're both kind of in the Office 365 suite of products, which I consider Dynamics 365 to be a part of that same product family. There's definitely some overlap. Like everyone has the one uniform account that they log into everything with, be it CRM, Outlook Online, SharePoint Online, and you'd use that same login for Power Apps and for Flow. And currently, both of these come free with the Dynamics 365 Enterprise plans. So it's just some free tools out there for you to use that are included as part of your license for Dynamics 365. And like I said earlier, there's easy connections to many systems. So like we already talked about through Office 365, we have that one login for many things, but it could connect to different cloud applications like Salesforce even, or it could connect to, if you click on these links, it'll tell you different things, but it can connect to like Twitter or Instagram. So it's just a very easy way. As long as you have a connection into those apps, it gives you a centralized place to kind of work with all those different connections. And kind of the end goal is you can kind of grab information from different places and pull it into what's called the Common Data Service. And we're not even using that today, but you have the option of creating your own kind of tables behind the scenes to kind of hold whatever you want from these different systems. So it's really cool stuff. All right. So we're just going to jump into our scenario. So basically, I just want to show you guys how, we wanted to just present a use case for Power Apps. So here's what we got. So FMT is proud to announce the release of our new Power Apps app for tracking event attendance. So Enverge, we're doing that. We've done that in the past. It's a technology conference hosted by FMT. If you've been there before, you know that visiting. We have vendors there, and they have incentives for visiting their booths. And normally those are in the form of like raffle tickets. Right at the end of the conference, we'll pull from all the raffle tickets. So in our new scenario, we're excited to say that we're not going to actually have tickets. Instead, we're just going to be actually using CRM to keep track of each individual contact's specific raffle ticket number. And then basically we're going to have different events at Enverge throughout the day where people are signing in, and we'll be using this Power App to track attendance for the users so that when they log in CRM, we're recording a specific activity to say that they attended this event. And at the end of the day, the more attendance you have, the better. And we'll use that instead of the raffle tickets and pulling out of a hat and just determine who's the winner that way through CRM. And then lastly, you have an option of receiving a slide deck for each of the presentations that's stored in SharePoint via email when you sign into each session. So that's kind of the background for our example app. And so just kind of looking at it from a diagram, this user only sees Power Apps, and Power Apps, the user sees Power Apps and interacts with it. But Power Apps behind the scenes interacts with Dynamics 365 and Flow, which can then communicate with Outlook and SharePoint. and also Dynamics 365 as well. All right. So I'm just going to open up PowerApps. Let's see. So it's just, I'm on a Windows 10 right now, and I'm just opening up PowerApps. I downloaded it from the Windows Store for Windows 10. If you don't have Windows 10, that's fine. There's actually, if you go to PowerApps on through the web portal, you'll be able to log in, and there's like kind of the same web designer that's you know, through the web application. So, but I'm going to just start with the tablet app because I just want to show you how it's working. So when you open it up, you just see, you know, all of these various apps. So the ones that are like grayed out aren't actually on this computer yet, and they're just like templates. But the one app that we're worried about today is FMT Event Registration App. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open this app, right? And all right, let me pull up CRM too at the same time. So just in CRM, we have our campaign set up, right? It's nVerge 2017. These are all of our various events that we have that we're going to, you know, be giving sessions on, CRM tips and tricks, and, you know, various different things that we might do at nVerge, right? And down here, we want to keep track of all of the different event attendances, which we'll get into later. But first thing is we're looking at campaign activities, right? And you'll see that we have CRM tips and tricks, CRM web API deep dive, all of these options, right? And what we're doing is we're pulling all of these options and displaying it in the portal, or in PowerApps, sorry. What we want here is for the user to actually click on the event that, you know, they might be in charge of managing the sign-ins for, and they go ahead and then just hit continue, right? So from that page, we go on to this next page where it shows like information about the actual event with the time that it's at. So we just are able to grab that information from the previous screen and go on to this screen, right? So now we're at the actual event and keeping track of attendance. So the way that we're going to identify contacts as logging in is we've already gone ahead and just assigned them in CRM a random raffle ticket number, right? So it's just from 001 all the way up to 138, right? For all of the contacts that are attending nVerge, we've just given these contacts in CRM a random raffle ticket number. And the idea is that when you're in the app, you know, we'll just enter the number that's associated with them, go ahead and look up their contact information. So you'll see I'm looking at 045, Frankie Mundy. You'll see here a contact card pops up with some of the information about the contact. You know, some that's there and some that isn't. So if I go back in CRM, looking at Frankie Mundy, let's see. So we see that he's 045, and it's actually just looking him up. And, you know, with Frankie Mundy and someone12@contoso.com, right? So this gives the user an opportunity as you're logging in to update their contact information directly into CRM. So let's say his phone number is 123-345-5678, right? And what we want to do is give him that opportunity, but also at the same time, this one button will essentially track the event attendance of this specific contact, right? So if I look up 045 again, we'll see that the business phone number is actually updated. And if I go back into CRM and I open up Frankie Mundy, I'm going to see that his business phone number has been updated in CRM as well, right? So what we've done is on click of that specific button, if we go back to our campaign, like I previously mentioned, we're looking at the specific campaign responses, right? So just looking at the subject here, we can see that anytime basically someone clicks on that confirm button through the app, we're going to be able to track an event registration, right? So that could be helpful in terms of determining which of your events are more popular than the others, and might give analytics and insight into that. And also, we need it for our raffle ticket. So the last thing is that the user would have an option to select the get collateral for the specific webinar. And so what we've done with Flow is once this response is created, we're going to kick off some process in Flow that automatically grabs a some collateral in SharePoint and sends that to I've just hard-coded it to myself right now, but would in our scenario send to the actual email address of that person if they wanted, if they chose to accept email, for example, right? So that's just kind of showing you end-to-end how easy it is to, with Flow and PowerApps, connect to the various different pieces like systems, CRM and Dynamics, or CRM and SharePoint, and present that information in a different interface and have people interact with that just specifically through that interface. So now that we have some idea about how the app is working, we're going to just go ahead and see how you might yourself go through the steps in creating something like this. So if I hit escape and then I go edit, sometimes this takes a while, so I also like to just have the web application open too, just in case when I'm editing, because that's just another alternative in terms of how you might get to it. So this option is always available just in case the app itself is taking some time, right? But it went ahead and opened up, so you have two different options, and just wanted to point that out. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is set up your connections, right? So if I go in my app designer and I go to content and I hit data sources, we're going to see we have some data sources, right? Contacts we already looked at in CRM, campaigns, campaign activities, and campaign responses we looked at in CRM. But what we want to do is the very first thing you log in is these have to come from somewhere, right? So we know that they're coming in from CRM, but we first have to set up the connections so that they're available when we get to this screen. So connections are managed at the actually through the web portal. So when you click on it, it actually opens up the web portal. And here you basically see, all of your different connections. So I already have mine set up, and as you start adding connections, they'll be persisted over time. And it's really simple. You just go in and hit new connection, and you can see here's all of these different connections that are just available to you, right? So for Dynamics 365, we could just create a connection through here, and it's just going to go ahead and bring up the login screen, that we're all familiar with. And if I'm already logged in, it's going to see this is 0 seconds. It already added it as a data source. So with that one login to everything, you can just set up your connections really easily. And it's the first step that you want to do in terms of PowerApps. So once you have, for our specific use case, we have CRM and SharePoint. CRM for mostly tracking the event registration and attendance, and SharePoint just for holding the collateral. But adding SharePoint is easy too, right? And any of these other connections is just going to pop like the login screen, and you should just be able to log in like you would into those apps on their websites. So once we have, you know, the connection set up, we want to create data sources. So what we'll do here is just, you know, add data source, and then you can pick from any of, so your connections are persisted throughout all of your apps, right? So as you set them up, they'll be available in the right-hand pane for you to select from, and just go ahead. It's like click through as well, right? So when I'm working with the demo environment, so it's showing me all of my various connections, right? We have our production CRM instance, we have our sandbox, and then this demo environment. So all of that is just taken care of for you. And then as you click into it, it's going to go in and just select all of the entities that are in the system, right? So right here is where you would kind of check off a single, you know, checkbox, and then just hit connect, right? So this is every single entity that's in the system, and that's how you would add it as your data source. So I'm not going to add any data sources here because I already have some, but that's how you would add a new one, right? So as you go into data source, your only options are just to refresh and remove it. So one thing that I experienced when I was going through is that the CRM data doesn't refresh in this edit mode unless you hit the refresh. So if you're not seeing some things, you know, refresh, that might be something you want to do, or, you know, even try restarting the app. But just as far as those data sources are concerned, right? So now that we have our data sources set up, we want to start adding controls, right? So the very first thing that I added that we're going to need is campaign activities, right? So if you see, right when I clicked on this drop-down, at the top, you'll see there's a function. So if you look at this function, it's saying sort campaign activities by subject, right? So this is kind of like if you worked with like SSRS or any kind of designer, Microsoft Designer, even Excel in the past, this is kind of similar experience where it'll have some sort of autocomplete. So right here, it's showing me like the various data sources that I have, right? And so once I hit select the one that I want, and then I hit comma, it's going to give me a list of available attributes for that specific entity that I can sort on, right? So what I want to do is just sort on the subject so that they're in alphabetical order, and it's as simple as that, right? So this data source is equivalent to a table for PowerApps, and you can basically just grab that data source and, you know, just specify it to be your data source for the drop-down list, right? So right here you see it's actually items equals. So looking up at this top bar is where you might set that up, right? And as I click on advanced, you'll see kind of all of the various options that you have for a control, right? So on select is when you maybe select when you change your selection, or on change, right? Items, right? So that is actually items up here, and that's what we were looking at in terms of actually displaying the thing. And if you'll notice, underneath, here's the value that gets displayed, right? So you have the option of picking what field you want to represent the drop-down, because everything in this drop-down essentially has all of the attributes of campaign activities, and you're able to pick from these and just set that to be the label for that specific drop-down, right? Adding pictures is really simple too. So if you go to media, you essentially just upload images into your app, and those become available just through your app, right? So as I click on select event screen, you'll see that the controls change here. And so I'm looking at the screen right now, and I'm able to just set the background to be one of the images that I uploaded earlier, right? So same for this logo. I just inserted an image on here, and then I just specified the image to be logo. So it's really easy to get started with branding and things like that through this through PowerApps. So the next thing that I want to talk about is continue. So on the continue button, I think we'll just go over here because this is typically where I like to do, you know, since it shows everything, I like to just work from this left-hand or right-hand pane, and if I need to do anything, then I'll just type it up there. But what we're doing is here we have this ability to just save what we have, right? So we want to save to, you can kind of think of it as like a state variable, or just like this variable that exists throughout the lifetime of the app. So this is helpful in going from this one screen to the other screen, right? So you're able to just create, and this state variable, which can get persisted, is called a collection. So this clear collect function will essentially clear out what's already in the collection and then create the collection again with whatever you specified. So it's just going to actually save our event, right? So whatever we have selected, it's going to put into this variable that we have that we can use on other screens. And by putting a semicolon after that, I'm able to actually chain functions together. So after we do that, we can just navigate to the next screen, which is specified by its name up here. So if you click on a control, right, this name is kind of what identifies it. That's available through here, and then it's going to be what you see as you change here. So I'm on the select event screen, and it's going to show me all of the different controls that I have by name on this screen. So we have the image, we have the event button, we have the event drop down. So go ahead and just go on to the next screen. And here we see that the first thing that we do is we update the context of the current event on this page to be the saved event. So what that means is we want to just have some variable that makes our life easier on this page, current event, right? We just, instead of having to call first.saved event every time, we're creating a variable that's only local to this screen, as opposed to a collection which persists throughout the whole thing. This is only going to be local to this screen, so we're saving that information just in current events. And as I click on this text box up here, you'll see that it's the current event subject, right? So I'm able to grab the information from the previous screen that's saved in my global variable that I'm saving in our state variable, and I'm saving it to the local one, and I'm basically able to grab all the images. So if I go into, or the text input text box rather, right? So I'm able to just grab the text values from that event to display the name of the event and how long it's going to go for. So that's the very first thing that we're doing on this page is making our lives easier by saving the first saved event to the current event, right? And this is just static text that we can just input, right? So this is just going to be static text right here. This text box, right, is just another text. It's just me inserting a text box. So this would be the way for you to insert controls. I'm just inserted a text box just like that. It's going to show up right there, right? So I just dragged it down. And so it's really easy for you to add controls. it's all coming from this insert tab, so it gives you, these are all the available ones. So this text input, put it on here. The next thing that we need to do is have this lookup function. So what this is going to do is I'm looking up based on the raffle ticket, right? So I actually just renamed the telephone to field to raffle ticket in CRM, so I just customized that to be our raffle ticket number. And what we're doing is we're using that update context function again, so we're creating essentially a new local variable. When we hit this button, it's going to save into text box contact the contact that it finds based on the telephone number matching, right? Because we know that there should be a one-to-one relationship between the telephone or raffle ticket rather number with the text input, and the issue is that filter returns you maybe more than a whole list of something, so we have to just grab the first element, right? So we're saving into this other local variable the contact, text box contact, the information that we're able to look up from here, right? Because we have contacts set up as a data source. That was one of the data sources. If we go back to content, right? So we're grabbing all that at the beginning, and we're able to compare the raffle ticket number, which is going to be one-to-one to a contact. So we know we're just going to grab the first one, and that's the information that gets displayed on here, which is known as a edit card. So if I click on advanced again, this form, right, is an edit card. And essentially on this form, you see all of the various fields that we decided to expose. So the first thing would be first name, right? So we're looking at first name, last name, telephone number, right? Telephone number, and then email address. So what we're doing here is we're able to essentially just add what we want. So we do add item. So once you click on the, starting from the form, what you want to do is you're able to set up the data source. You want to set up the data source first so that this data source is, for that specific table or entity. And from that, we've saved to that, our contact that we're looking for, we've saved, and we're going to use that to determine what's displayed. And from that, once you go into options on the form, you can actually it shows all of the fields that you would want, right? So there's this like crossed out I. As soon as you click on that, it's going to add that field to your form. So it added it underneath the confirm button, but you can add pretty much any of the fields that you would want that are exposed through this just by clicking the viewable button. And that's just going to add in all of the fields that you could actually want on, for people to be able to edit, right? So that's how you would expose some data to the user so that they can edit it for like a specific contact, right? So that's how you expose it. And then when we actually want to save the information, you go ahead and click on the confirm button to see what that's doing. And actually on the confirm button, we're doing two things. So this is where Flow comes in. So we're actually able to, through Flow, call a specific flow. So we can surface a flow in PowerApps and call that specific flow, and that's called create event response, and it takes in a parameter of whatever you want it to be. And then after that, submits this form, right? So the submit form actually updates the information to CRM, and then at the same time we call a flow to create an event response based on what some of the information that was input into the form, like basically what just some information we're writing into the subject right now, right? This person for this event attended, and it's gonna have it's created on time, so that's gonna be how we're gonna track when they actually attended the event. Okay, so let's go ahead and just log into Flow now, so we can see how that's looking like. If I go into Flow and click on My Flows, you'll see that I have two flows already created, and this is the one that I was talking about earlier, create event response. So what we do here is we initiate a activity from PowerApps, so we can essentially link it to the button, and then all we want to do is just create a task in CRM, which actually triggers the creation of the event response, because there's some limitations of the creation of an event response through Flow, which is like one of the things that I'll cover later, in that it doesn't reveal all of the fields that you would need to create a specific entity. So when you're thinking about that, that might be something to think about. So on creation of this task, it's going to trigger the creation of the event response, right? So actually, if I go into activities, you'll see that creating that task pretty much creates an event response, which is related to the marketing campaign. So we're not actually able to set that through PowerApps or Flow. So you know, we still are able to get to our end result, but we have to trigger it from creating a task first. So there's a little complexity there. And this is nice. Flow is nice too, because if you click on the information, if you go back to that screen, you can see, you can track all of your flows and see, you know, how they're running, how long it takes, and just if you need to, you can even resubmit and rerun it. So we can kind of see, you know, how workflows run through that way. And looking at this other workflow through Flow, we see that when something gets created from campaign responses, we're going to go in SharePoint. And I'm just going into my SharePoint PowerApps, and I'm able to just grab, you know, a document out of that document library, and then send an email based on the event response to the person. As you saw in the in my email, as I'm logging in, to just go ahead and send that over. So that's basically it in terms of how we might, you know, set something up, and we just wanted to come up with a scenario that we could show how easy it is to connect the various different systems. But of course, you know, there's some limitations as well, as you saw with the having to create the task first, which triggers the creation of the event response. Okay. Do we have any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, and everyone, you know, thank you for joining us today. And it doesn't look like we have any questions down here in the chat box or in the question box. But if you have any questions, we'll be following up with all the attendees, so feel free to ask at that time. We truly do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us, and we hope to see you at our future events. And Henry, you got something to say?
Yeah. So I just wanted to from working with the application, I just wanted to end on, you know, here's my experience of working with PowerApps and Flow. So some of the positives I think that are there is it's easy to connect, you know, to the different systems. You just have to log in, as I showed you. It's actually really easy to share and deploy throughout your organization if you have Office 365. So you can just, it's just one button for you to be able to share it, right? So once you go to the application, one of your options is, to be able to share it with other people, and that would be this button. So we can just share within our organization. So anyone would be able to grab this app and just, as long as they have their phone or tablet, then they could download the app, right? So you can, it's made for mobile, so it's easy to share. It's easy to get started with mobile and up and running quickly without doing too much. Just download it and go. I also like in Flow how there's that ability for you to be able to track the items, the history of each job, and you have the ability to rerun it. And I think it's pretty easy for you to add media and branding to PowerApps. You can just upload pictures and images and go ahead and they'll just show up, right? So those things I think are great, and keep in mind it's a relatively new product, and they're always going to be making improvements. So there's that as I go into what I didn't like. So first of all, they give you the option to insert different controls, right? But I found that, and a couple of those controls are the barcode control, and then there's a pen input control. As I was deploying these solutions, trying to share it with someone else, to just see if it worked on their machine, or even restarting my machine, and from day to day, the camera and the different functions of the machine wouldn't quite work in the way that they worked before, so I felt that I couldn't even use those to demo, right? So one of the things is that you don't really have access like you would if you had a truly custom mobile app where you have access to those controls. You're kind of relying on PowerApps to drive that. So that's one thing. Kind of related to that in Flow is you'll see that in Flow, as you're going through the workflow designer, you don't really have that many options of what you can or can't do, right? So, for example, I wanted to say from when something gets created in CRM, I want to share something in SharePoint, right? So just show you how easy it is. So when you're already in with CRM, right, so it has your connection, you pick the demo as you wanted, and then you can just pick, I'm just going to show you quickly. So in SharePoint, right, it's only going to give you this list of actions that you can do, right? So you can't do every single thing with it. It's just the ones that they pre-configured through Flow. Of course, you can call like custom REST endpoints to perform your own custom business logic, but if you don't have that, then you're pretty much limited to what they expose to you. And so that might be something to consider too when you're looking at Flow. Kind of the flip side of being able to deploy so quickly and have it up and running on all devices is that you're actually running the app through you're running your app inside PowerApps essentially, right? So when users see it, they're not going to see your company logo. They're just going to see PowerApps, and that's going to open up, and then from there they're going to see the app. So it's not quite, if you need that level of branding, then it's not going to do it for you, right? And lastly, like kind of related to the creation of tasks as a workaround for the event responses, some of the availables just aren't available when you try to create things from PowerApps. So for example, lookups, you just can't set lookups, right? In CRM, where it's like a GUID and an entity type, we're just not able to set those. So there has to be kind of some design decisions that need to be made, and workarounds that might not be so ideal to get exactly what you want. So yeah, I think it's good for certain use cases where you need to just spin up something quickly, and you want maybe another interface specifically for CRM. Like if you want to have like a different interface that's mobile, that where you want someone to insert information, you want it to be branded throughout the app, not on the when you click on it, but you could still have it branded, right, when they're going through the app. I think it's a good thing for that, but anything more complex, then we might have to think about different solutions. So yeah, there's that, and no questions?
Doesn't look like any questions. Thank you for that insight, Henry. And with that, I think it wraps up our webinar for today. Thank you everybody for joining, and have a great rest of your day.